Hi, I'm Brian Noble, CEO of Family Policy Institute of Washington.
Hi, and I'm Brad Payne, president of FPIW Action.
A couple of the disclaimers before we get started today. Nothing should be taken as an endorsement of a candidate, nor the candidate's endorsement of FPIW or FPIW Action. We're simply doing a public service to meet and greet the candidates. So this will be recorded and on several different platforms.
All right, well, I get the first question. It's a pretty easy one. What I'd
Okay,
like you to do is just introduce yourself, your name, the position you're running for, and then give us a little background about yourself and your family.
sure. So my official campaign name ended up being Mill Steele. They said for $400 I could change it. So I left it that way, but the community calls me Maria. That's what they know me as. So a little about me. I like to start off what got me involved with the local PUD. Uh, that is that I was retired and I was practicing paradise. I tell people I'm practicing paradise. What does that mean? That means when I meet somebody, I leave them in a better place.
Mm.
So that was my definition. And I ended up having a high utility bill, and that got me going. And I'll just leave it at that. But my background, I was actually raised in a public utility family. My father worked for a public utility, and he was the kind of father who had a lot of trust in his family. I had like perfect parents, okay? They were just great. I just have high admiration for both my parents, besides the fact that they were geniuses. They were very compassionate and allowed their children to be themselves, but also supplied me with a kit on how to build my own battery, let me work with chemicals in the lab, my own gasware, you know. So anyhow, jumping ahead, I got involved in natural resources, and that became my career. So I did 25 plus years of public service, basically my whole life. And no matter what job I did, I was high ethics, moral standards, followed all the all the what I'm supposed to be doing. And that got me into both national and international level positions. So I ended up having a lot of responsibility. My last job, I was the head Northwest Regional Planning Forester. I was treated very well because they roll out the red carpet for me because I'd help fund the programs. But besides that, I loved my job. I loved the public service. And when I retired, it was kind of hard to leave that behind. So that brought me to practicing paradise more.
That's
And then
great.
getting involved in the PUD. So that's my introduction.
Excellent. You kind of mentioned this, but maybe you want to expand. What is motivating you to run for office?
Ah, excellent question. The primary thing the reason why I'm running is because I couldn't get anybody else. 2 years ago in the other district, I actually sponsored two candidates. I convinced them to run. I sponsored them both.
Hmm.
Since then, I put newspaper articles out there trying to get a candidate. And I realized that I've been the main motivator behind about 10% of the community
Hmm.
that has been brought aware of what's happening with our local public utility district. And because I've put in 3,000 plus hours, a lot of meetings, articles in the newspaper, public meetings live, PowerPoint presentations, 3,000 plus hours trying to be incognito, trying for nobody to know who I am, just wanting to help anybody with a beating heart in my community. Well, between the newspaper and the PUD, they kind of fleshed out who I was. And so I couldn't get anybody else to run. I knew what's going on. So I went for it.
Excellent.
Very good. All right, I get the third question. If you could tell us and the listeners your top concern in your area, and then what you hope to accomplish if you're elected into this position.
Well, I don't have a single top concern, but if I had to narrow it down, I'd say the business model that got voted in 2019, what they refer to as the cost of service study, became, I'm just going to say it, a corporate parasite model. And it was against the grain of the mission of the PUD. And all the commissioners and management basically took their positions within a 2-year period of time. And so that their knowledge of running a public utility district was pretty minimal. None of them had the background. They all seemed like they were puppeteers to me. They just vote yes without blinking. And I just like to give you one example. So this new business model is actually a template used all the way across the state of Washington. And instead of the 3.5 cents per kilowatt that we're paying, in the cost of service study, starts at $4 a kilowatt, works up to $11 a kilowatt for demand times time of use. And people who live at home are trying to have a family, raise a family for using essential electricity. This is just not acceptable. And that's just one example. I can go on and on and on with the inequalities. I'll just say the last PUD meeting, they voted in $26 million worth of for 2 projects for the year, and we only have 6,500, including businesses. So and they've been doing this time and time again, is just putting us, spiraling us into debt, talking about bankruptcy, not sure losing their insurance on coverage for the PUD. So trying to be self-insured. And now I'm going to say the same words. This is not tailored to you guys, but I've been saying this. They're doing business with the devil. They're allowing a data center PUD to come through, which will double the use of electricity. And it has a lot of other repercussions. But I wanted to, before we run out of time, I wanted to address my perspectives of your issues.
Sure. Yeah, that's our fourth and final question. Any of the areas of FPIW action, FPIW that you want to discuss or communicate about?
Yeah, I have them written down, but I'm going to go by memory. So
okay. You go for it.
Yeah, I'll go for it. So one of the things with high utility bills, they've been shutting off people's electricity in the middle of winter, during COVID. People have been put on the street. So it's created a homeless situation. With it, a lot of other negative repercussions with it. So yeah, I went through and I emailed basically that I'm an advocate for everything you guys advocating, and I'm opposing for everything you're opposing. It was amazingly a good fit. I was going like, wow, this is great. I mean, what you guys are doing to support these bills. And I actually had 4 other overlapping things with my mission and yours, but since we're shy on time, I'd like to get some questions in.
Yeah, so actually in our interviews today, we're not taking questions, but we would be happy to take those offline. This is this is about you, and we want to keep the focus on you. So, Brad, fine. Why don't you thank our guest, and we'll talk a little bit offline here. We can answer the questions.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Maria, for your time. We appreciate you joining us, and wish you the very best in the next 2 weeks as we come up on this primary election. And just thank you again for joining us and sharing your thoughts with us.
Yeah, I'm actually not on the primary, just on the general.
Just on the general. Okay, that's good for our listeners to know. So in the general, look for Maria. And so thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Well, I'm Brad Payne with FPIW Action.
And I'm Brian Noble from FPIW. Nothing on this video should be taken as an endorsement of the candidate, nor the candidate's endorsement of FPIW and FPIW action. We simply want to love our neighbor by faithfully stewarding the public square. And if you are a defender, go out there and defend and advance biblical values in the public square. God bless.